Hello, hello. Good morning. Hey, Nina. Oh, Nina was joining us yesterday to our other webinar. Nice to see you again. Björkén, Michaela. We're going to give a couple of minutes only before we start. Good morning, Kong, also. Michaela. So I guess we can start. Give a couple of minutes, but when we have more people joining, we're going to let them in as we go. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm so happy that you're here. We're going to record the session as well, so and have it available online too for whoever would like to tune in and see what was the discussion about. My name is Gabriela Rodriguez. I'm from the Impact Hub Stockholm team. Just as a background, if you don't know what is it, the work that we do, we support entrepreneurs all the way from idea to scale. We work towards a sustainable and more inclusive and innovative world. We are part of this global network. We have 120 plus locations all over the world. We are in 70 plus countries, and we work at the intersection of entrepreneurship and innovation. We are the way that we do it is that we are part innovation lab, part community center, and part a business development center as well. And the way that we do it, we drive different kinds of impactful programs as well. We foster communities of engagement. We work closely with partners from the public, private sector. And yes, at the front, we are everything for people and planet as well. So we've been operating for more Impact Hub Stockholm particularly. We've been operating 15 plus years here in Sweden. And yes, so I'll be your moderator for today, and I have three wonderful speakers with us. I'll let you know about them in a few minutes. I'll just want to give you a brief of why is it that we are here. Why is the context of this webinar? This is a webinar series that it's part of the Wonderful Project. The Wonderful Project is an initiative that we're driving alongside other partners in Europe. And in short, it's wonderful, but it stands for Growth Model for Green, Digital, and Resilient Entrepreneurship for European young people. I know it's a mouthful, but so we tried to concise it in a very positive and forward-thinking name. And so this is it's co-funded by the EU. And it's a 2-year initiative where we are going to be, where we are doing different digital trainings, local workshops, and everything is happening in parallel with our partners as well. I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. This is it's towards young women from the target audiences, 18 to 30 years old. And when I'm mentioning it's being done in parallel, is with our partners in Belgium, Turkey, Greece, and Austria. And whatever activities are happening here in Sweden, they're also happening in these countries. So for today's webinar, the topic is everything to understand all the different opportunities that are in financing here in Sweden. So we have with us some three speakers. We're going to start with you, Ylva, first. Ylva, she's the CEO of Mikrofonden Sverige. Is the only in Sweden is the only dedicated organization that is an institution dedicated for microfinancing. She has helped over 170 plus social enterprises to access capital. And Ylva, she's going to be sharing on how microfinance can serve as a tool for launching and growing impact-driven businesses. And Karin Björkén, she's an angel investor, advisor at Antler, and she's a part of the board here at Impact Hub Stockholm as well. So she's going to bring her investor's perspective to this talk. And she's going to guide us through everything for what it means to be like a strong early stage, to do a strong early stage pitch, especially when it comes to traction and teams. And then last but not least, we have Regina with us. She's the former Chief Strategy Officer at Vinnova, and she's now the CEO of RS Advisory. She has over 2 decades of experience in Sweden's innovation ecosystem, and she's going to guide us through how to find and apply for public funding opportunities here. So part of the agenda for today, is that we are going to hear first from each of the speakers, their bio, their backgrounds, and a bit about their experience first, and I was going to say Oxen, and after they're going to dive into their topics that they're going to be sharing with us, and diving into their brains a bit and understand and know their knowledge on this topic. And after that, we're going to give them 10 minutes each to board these topics. And then we're going to go through a panel of discussion with them, just doing some questions that they are going to answer with their perspective. And we're going to open it afterwards for some Q&A. Where you can, we're going to ask you to open your mics if you want, or alongside, please write your questions in the chat. We're going to wrap up with some reflections afterwards. And yes, and that would be the agenda for today. And I just want to mention that I'm very excited about this because I have been, I mentioned it yesterday, I've been on parental leave or partly parental leave. So it has been exciting that this is like my first guiding webinar after that. And particularly because I believe that the knowledge of Karin, Ylva, and Regina are going to be very, very insightful and useful for this, for anyone that wants to start their startup or are in the process and looking for funding. So with this, I'll open the floor to Ylva first, so she can share her perspective on this topic, and then we go from there. Ylva, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, well, I didn't plan to share a PowerPoint because I thought it might be nice with a more direct conversation. I do have slides to illustrate if it would be easier for you to grasp the content. But okay, let's start like this anyway. Yes. So. We already heard a brief presentation of what Mikrofonden is, but I will share a bit more. But I can start by saying that I work remotely from a village called Stjärnsund in Dalarna region here in Sweden. but I work on a national and international level. So travel a bit, but I work a lot from home as well. And now I've been CEO of Mikrofonden, the Microphone Sweden, for 6 years now. But I was working side to side with the Mikrofonden almost since it was started in 2010, because in 2011 I was employed at Hela Sverige ska leva. They call themselves Rural Sweden in English, which is a network for about 5,000 village action groups all around Sweden, working with local democracy and local development, bottom up. And Rural Sweden was one of the co-founders of Mikrofonden, together with Companion, which is a national organization with offices in all regions in Sweden, where you can go and get advice if you want to start a social enterprise or a cooperative, or basically you want to start a company together with a group of people. And also together with the ethical cooperative bank Ekobanken. So these three organizations from civil society started the Microfond together as a cooperative. And the reason why they did that was because they saw that value-driven, not foremost for-profit companies were becoming increasingly excluded from financial services, especially in rural areas, but also in vulnerable areas like suburbs, with other kinds of issues maybe than the rural areas. But yeah, this was hindering local development for many local groups, and they wanted to do something to make change, and that was why they started Mikrofonden. So we are a risk-willing investor and financer, and I will give some examples of how we invest or how we finance very within a few minutes. But I want to start maybe to define this expression social enterprise, what I mean when I say that. And let's see, maybe I have, we have different illustrations of that. I think I will share with you some pictures anyway to illustrate this. Let's see if I'm actually able to share. Yes, I am. Okay. So yeah, as you see in this picture, sometimes we call ourselves Sweden's biggest and smallest social impact investor. We think we're biggest because no other social impact investor invested in as many social impact companies as we did, more than 170, as Gabriela mentioned. I think it says 160 here, which is a little bit not up to date. But we work with microfinance. So these 170 have shared about 3.5 million Swedish, 35 Swedish crowns, 35 million Swedish crowns, or 3.5 million euros. So if we compare, for example, with Norrsken, which is another impact investor in Sweden, maybe they invest 3 million euros per company, but this is not the case for us. So here you can see some examples from our portfolio. It can be rural community centers who need to renovate their house, or maybe put up solar panels, or make it more accessible for people with disabilities, etc. We have here an example of a not-for-profit school in the suburb of Tensta, Rinkeby, outside of Stockholm, who are working with integration and good education for everyone in Sweden. We see examples here of staff cooperative, workers cooperative in Gothenburg who work with bike transportations, and some other examples as well. Down to the left, you see a new shelter for homeless people in the town Falun in Dalarna. So we have many different examples, and I will dig a bit deeper into a couple of them. So as I said, our target group is social enterprises and NGOs, and they should contribute positively to the SDGs and have the ability to pay back, because we don't work with grants. But okay, this was actually the slide that I wanted to share with you. What is a social enterprise? And we use the EU criteria. It means an organization with societal goals. They focus on impact. It's impact first rather than profit first, even though profit is of course as important for social enterprises, but they use the profit slightly differently. They should have democratic values and governance. That could mean, for example, that all co-owners have equal shares. It could also mean that they have different methods for creating equality within their target group or something like this. And they reinvest most of their profits. So yeah, profit is important, but it's not mainly used as dividend to shareholders, but reinvested in the social impact they want to create or in their own enterprise. And they're independent from public sector. Yes, okay. I think I stop sharing there. And let's see. Gabriela, you tell me when I'm
This is
starting
perfect.
to run out of time, but I have a little bit more that I wanted to tell you.
Yes, a couple of more minutes.
Okay, that
We
sounds
move
good.
to.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were inspired by microcredit in the global south. This was happening, in countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, etc., long before it started in Europe. And this was used as a tool for inclusion. There is this saying, if someone is hungry, don't give a fish, but give, what do you say? I don't know this word in a net, so you can capture more fish or something like this.
Teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish, yeah. But in this case, we were thinking, so how do we do this in a Western welfare state? Maybe it's not enough, to teach someone how to fish. Maybe we actually have to lend them money so they can buy a fishing boat or something like this. And also when it comes to exclusion in a welfare state like Sweden, it often is connected to some other, social issues or problems. If you work with people, for example, coming out of prison, or working with people who are homeless, or you work with refugees, for example, there are different reasons why these people get excluded from finance. But we try to find ways to create this inclusion anyway. And we understood that by creating social enterprises, this can be a way of helping people with self-empowerment in a Swedish context.
Yes, Nina wrote on the chat that it was also the Nobel Peace Prize or prize winner too, the one for micro.
Exactly, yeah, Janus.
Yes.
Yunus, and I think Mikrofonden was started like about the same time, maybe some year after this Nobel Prize. So we were inspired by this. And so what is a micro loan in a Swedish context? We say now it's maximum 1.1 million Swedish crowns. So it's not that small, but the most common, average size is maybe 300,000 or something like this. And we see ourselves as a complement to Almi, because there is also this governmental agency that offers micro loans, but they only do it to for-profit companies. And also, unfortunately, their track record is not very gender equal. Only 28% of their money goes to female entrepreneurs, whereas our investments have gone 60% to female-led companies. So,
And
yes.
Yes. There was one very particular line once you mentioned about how Mikrofonden funds focuses on social enterprises, and how within social enterprises, the gender gap, it's still also low. And
Yes.
social enterprises funding is low. And then imagine, so it's when it comes to women that do their not company, but their social business, the way that they're financed, it's also, there's a gender gap there as well.
Yes, exactly. So it's a bit, what do you say, like a double discrimination, unfortunately. So we really feel that we have that there's this gap in the financial market that we're covering.
Yes. But
Yes.
thank you, Ylva, for giving us like the first initial scope of
Yeah.
microfinancing and what it means, microloans, and here in Sweden particularly. So, in this point of view, it's gonna be very interesting to see how you, we discussed this on the panel after all of us present. So maybe we go now with Karin from the investor side. So if Karin, if you can introduce yourself briefly, and then to open the perspective of this point of view.
Yes, thank you. And super interesting, Ylva, to hear more about Mikrofonden. And thank you, Gabby. Yes, so I sort of represent the investor perspective here. I don't have my background at all in social enterprises or social entrepreneurship. I come from the tech sector. So I worked in Spotify for many years, and I've been a business angel for the last, what can it be, maybe 7 years or something like that. And I also been coaching teams through Antler, which is sort of a incubator working with super early stage startups. And I also am part of Greens Ventures, which is a sort of investment company with Spotify alumni people, doing also very early stage, mainly tech investments. And I would say, you know, looking at the numbers for VC money or business angel money going to female entrepreneurs, I think the numbers are even more depressing, actually. So we have a big job to do that, to make that more equal. And I think we're quite a small group. So from my perspective, I don't mind if anyone wants to throw in a question at any time. Feel free to just do that if you want to. I have a few slides actually. So I mean, sort of what I wanted to talk a bit about is sort of like, as from an investor view, what am I interested, you know, in seeing from especially early stage startups. So I'm not gonna do a slideshow because then I don't see you. So I thought I could just share, you know, share the tab, if that's possible. Okay. So I have to do this. Okay, I'm struggling a bit with sharing my screen, so I'll just talk instead. Yeah, so you know, I think when you look at, you probably, I mean, if you Google this or if you talk to people, it's pretty standard what you recommend startups to sort of show in their pitch deck or talk about to investors. So, you know, it's clearly about purpose. Why do you even exist as a company? And its problem, you know, what's the problem you are solving? your product or your solution to this problem. You know, how do you solve this problem? Then you go into the more, you know, business side of it, like what kind of market size do you see for your product or your solution? Why is now a good point in time to come out with this product? Then you go. Then you have to talk about, you know, validation or traction, and that's, you know, depending on what phase you're in. Sort of, if you're very early phase, you probably talk more about validation, like trying to build the case for proving that this is interesting to your customers. If it's a bit more later. If it's a bit later, the later stage, you talk more about traction, like show the data that your product is actually gaining traction. Then, of course, it's the business model. How are you planning on making money on this? You talk about your competitors, the team. I will go more into that. Your roadmap, sort of both for, you know, how your product's going to develop over time, but also how you're going to, you know, launch this to different target groups or to different markets. Then I think one important thing that you don't see that often is, you know, the payback part. What's in it for you as an investor? You know, is there an exit strategy, or how could you expect to get your money back at some point? And then, of course, you know, what are you looking for? What kind of, how much money do you need, and what are you going to use it for? But I thought the ones I wanted to talk a little bit more about is, first of all, you know, the validation and the traction. So like I said, it's going to look a little different depending on where you are. But if you're a really early stage startup, we talk about validation. And I think I've listened to a lot of pitches where people have been, you know, more or less on their own, you know, developing this super fantastic idea or product, but it's still, you know, they still haven't showed it to the world. And I think that's like the biggest mistake you can make. So, you know, talk to people. That's the number one thing, I would say. So when I worked with Antler, you know, we talked about, you know, you need to do, and Antler is quite a short programs, you know, you come in and you just have a few months from, you know, going from nothing to actually presenting at an investment committee. And the guidance is, you know, you need to do 200 interviews with customers, with, you know, potential partners and with advisors. And, you know, you make the math, that's talking to several people a week. Probably several people a day even. So I think, to me, that's the number one thing I want to know as an investor. I mean, sometimes I'm really target group myself as an investor, but usually I'm not. So I need proof, you know, I need to be convinced that the user's really going to love this startup and what they're offering. And not only the users, but also the partners, because partners, I think, are super important, but I'll come back to that. And of course, you know, there's nothing stronger than actually having paying customers. And that can be really challenging early on in a startup, but, you know, at least somehow showing a willingness to pay. And especially if you're in some businesses, you know, there's quite a high willingness to pay because people are used to paying a lot, you know. So if you look at, for instance, if it's product for people who are having issues, you know, having a baby, for instance, that they are already in a quite expensive space. So you can assume that maybe there's a willingness to pay there. But in many, you know, so the need, you know, how important it is will be different for different sectors. But you need to have a convincing case that people will actually be willing to pay. I think one thing that can be used a lot more is to, you know, of course, startups talk about competition, but I think one really good way to prove, you know, to show that or to validate your idea is to show competitors that have succeeded, but that are maybe in another market than you're going for, or that, you know, somehow is targeting something else. But I think, you know, showing that someone else has actually succeeded with something very similar or the same kind of idea can be a very good thing to do. And I know a lot of really successful startups that, you know, that are not super innovative, because the only thing they're doing is actually picking something someone else did in another market and just applying it in a new context. So, it's not necessarily a problem to not be, unique or be the first one doing something, but so really to use your competition. So that was a few points on sort of the validation or traction part. And I also want to talk a little bit about the team, because, early, I think everyone's heard that, if it's early stage, you're actually investing in the team more than you're investing in the product. So don't forget the team. I think, maybe even start with the team. Why are you a good team to build this company? Hopefully, the space. I think many of the strongest founder stories I've heard is when the founder actually had a real problem or had a real struggle themselves, and then they found the solution for that. I know, that's the founder story for Fridh, for instance. It's also a founder story for one of the startups I've invested in, Hormona, where the Carolina, who started the company, actually did it because she struggled herself a lot with hormonal health issues. And when she finally got the help she needed, she was, there has to be an easier way, because it took her years, So I think if you can find, an idea that you actually can tie to yourself or to your team, that's the really strongest thing. But on the other hand, you can also fake it until you make it. You have to, you have to learn about your topic, and you have to be able to talk about it as if you are an expert, but you don't have to be an expert from start. You will learn. And if you do these 200 interviews, so, talk to people that much, you will be able to understand what is important. How can I tweak my story, so I really can talk about this as an expert. And of course, you need to have a team where I, as an investor, can feel, that you can both build and sell this thing that you're doing. So quite often you see a very build heavy founder team, for instance, maybe 2 CTO profiles. And then you wonder, will they be able to sell this ever? These days, I would say it's almost going the other way around. So maybe you have like a growth founder, and then you have more of a product founder. And then you wonder, okay, so if tech is pretty central, will they be able to build this? But maybe the case is stronger these days, that you can do that with, outsourced tech, etc. But show that diversity. And I think it's also important to, from the start, be clear about the team. Who has what responsibility? Because there are tough discussions when you're early in a startup, who's going to have which role? How much equity am I going to have? And how much equity are you going to have? But if you can explain that easily to investors, then you also show that you're not scared to take these tough discussions and sort of get these things in place early on. Any thoughts, any, comments? Just throw them in there. So I have 2 topics left. I wanted to just mention briefly. So I think the ask is quite an important part of it, So you ask for money, but what are you going to use this money for? So I think a good plan is to connect, your roadmap, both when it comes to market and product, to sort of the money you want to get in. So, what exactly, it's not, you don't want to see like a calendar view, like 2025, October, we do this, to 2026, February, this, but, I want to see, so if you're going to get, if you're looking for a sum of money, what are you going to do with that money? And how long is that money going to last? And when are you going to look for more money? And what do you think that money is going to sort of be used for? So, think financing calendar, or what to call it, rather than sort of than just, calendar, if it makes
I want
sense.
to tap into that comment, because that was exacerbated in yesterday's webinar about the importance of have your assumptions well structured, or like have a good overview of your assumptions. Whenever you are, maybe you don't have, no one can predict exactly what is going to happen, but to have like all those different scenarios and that thought process behind those assumptions, I would assume that that's important for the investor as well. What is the thought process behind whatever is being thought of that is going to happen with the product, with the money, with the market.
Yeah, I like that, that super old saying, like, you need to do planning, but you sort of need to hold it lightly and change it, because then it's much easier to communicate. I mean, if you have done your homework sort of with your assumptions and your plans, and then of course you need to be super open to changing when you learn more or when things happen, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you, Karin. We leave it on there to open that thought of, or like that thought process behind the investor's perspective and what they look for whenever they want to provide money to early startups. So we move now to the perspective of public funding and grants and how to find them and apply for them. What's the process? So we're going to open the floor for Regina. And the same, Regina, if you can a quick introduction about yourself, and then we dive into the topic.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me, of course. I've been working with public funding as almost 25 years, and been doing it both from a private part. I was both in a company that worked solidly in supporting SMEs and larger corps and applying for different kinds of public funding, both on a national level and EU level. And I also was an EU consultant for KPMG, working mostly with, industry, so larger corporates, but also more mature SMEs. And then I also been responsible for funding. So I was responsible for Startup Sweden at Tillväxtverket, and also responsible for several programs there. And also, of course, at Vinnova, responsible for public funding, both for international, mostly actually for international projects. And you interrupt me whenever you want. I'm going to try to go through these slides as fast as possible, but I think for me, it's just easier to give you this picture on slides. So having worked with public funding for such a long time, my main message, what I believe is like absolutely most important for a startup or a scale up or whatever company, if you're not like Ericsson doing research on top global level, is focus on sales. And I know it sounds a little bit weird to say that here, but I just wanted to take it back to you need to sell. You need to know how to sell. You need to have someone in your team that knows how to sell. Do not focus on, trying to figure out all the public money or these different grants that are out there. It will take a lot of your time. And the important thing at the end of the day is that you get your first sale. So sorry, but just having said that, let's go back to the thematic of the day. Public funding then. And this is just good for you to know that it's out there, but then you really need to do like a self-assessment. Is this the way we want to go? When it comes to public R&I funding that is out there, there are so many government agencies. Actually, Tillväxtanalys released a report a couple of weeks ago saying that, a lot of the public money, no one is actually counting or measuring the effects that it actually does. And I've also seen working both at Tillväxtverket and Vinnova, you have these regular customers that just come back and apply for more funding, and they're really in this very, very bad chain that don't go there. But yes, in some cases public funding is relevant, and when it comes to the money that is out there from public agencies, these are the ones that work with it. So this is what you see on the screen is you have research, so TRL 1 to 2. TRL means technology readiness level. You have that on the left side, and then you have commercialization, so TRL, from 6 and upwards on your right side. And Vinnova works a lot with TRL from both, from 2 to to 3, 4, 5-ish. And Vinnova, as you know, is the Swedish innovation agency. Then you have the Swedish Research Council that really works with early stage research projects. You have Forte that focuses on more sustainability. It's actually they focus on societal development, and then you have Formas that is more sustainability focus. All these public agencies that have money in different phases, but quite early stage. And then of course the Swedish Space Board that also have public funding grants that you can apply for, but that are in an earlier stage. And then the Swedish Energy Agency that we really have started to work very, very much more towards commercialization, that have super interesting grants also. On the right side, very close to commercialization, you have the industry fund. This is state money, this is public money. Almi, public money again, Almi Invest, and both Almi with their loans, but also Almi Invest with their VC company, VC money. This is actually the largest VC company we have in Sweden. And then the Swedish Growth Agency that nowadays don't have that much free money for opening calls, but they have, of course, the European Regional Development Fund money that is on a regional level, and then you have it also on the national level. I was actually part of creating the national program within ERDF, which was a challenge, but very exciting. These are the public R&I agencies that have funding. Other funding opportunities, of course, you have the Starta Eget-bidrag. It's like but you need to be unemployed here. So it's actually quite ridiculous because there's a lot of fantastic people out there with ideas. And to just get started, you need to be unemployed to even get that. You actually, I think you even need to have been fired to get it. It's not that easy, but it's out there. If you are in that kind of situation, you can look into it. And of course, they prioritize female founders that apply for that grant. You have the business development check, the sustainability check, internationalization check. These are checks that are on a regional level, usually from Länsstyrelsen or like the region. Now some parts is called more regions. So you have those checks there. They're not open that often in Stockholm. They have like one call a year for some of them. And usually it opens up like in the like end of the year, they make some kind of announcement, and then in January it opens up. There's a lot of competition for that money, but it is a check for about 250,000. It has usually been the top level. You need to co-found, but that's a good thing in Sweden. The co-founding can actually be in kind, so it means your own hours is part of the co-founding, but it's up to 250,000 Swedish crowns for business development. You want to become more sustainable in your company, or you want to look into another market, and that can be used for that. There are other checks also through the incubators in Sweden. The problem here is that these incubators, they don't really I've never seen anyone there promote that they actually have these checks, and these checks are available for anyone out there, not just the ones that are part of the incubator. So you need to know about this. I think in Stockholm, if you can reach out to Södertälje Science Park. They administer one of the checks. And then you also have Sting that administer some of these checks. But you need to know about these things to ask for them, but they're never promoted. And then you have the Impact Innovation Initiatives by Vinnova. They have these 5 huge programs now, and they have their own calls. It's actually they are done through Vinnova, but the information about them, you can find them on the respective Impact Innovation Initiative pages, and just enter Vinnova's webpage, and then you search for Impact Innovation Initiatives, and you will get to those pages. And there are some focusing on water. There's some focusing on net zero for industries. There's one focusing more on how do we develop our, a more public governance, and so forth. So these 5 can be quite relevant. There's a lot of money in them. I think each program has received like 50 million Swedish crowns that are supposed to go out to different projects. So there's a lot out there that is not really published. Public support then, because sometimes you don't need the money, but you just need support and guidance and coaching and different things. And then of course the free support here, you have Nyföretagar Center that is free. You have Almi that is free, but try to get you to stay, to get you to apply for loans. They don't have any grants. Once back in the days, they actually had grants. That is more or less gone. And then you have the incubators and science parks that have, these different kinds of checks but also support, of course, and it's free. And you can go into CISP's webpage to find the different incubators and science parks. And then also FUHS that is the organization that gathers all the innovation offices and the holding companies, and Sweden has 19 holding companies that have support for entrepreneurs and out there. And then Companion, of course, that's also kind of free support. But if you want, and I was asked by Gabby, can you mention something on the EU level? And I've been working a lot at the EU level with larger projects, also EIC, the European Innovation Council. But I wouldn't, being in a really early stage, sorry for sounding negative, but don't even think about this. It's way too complicated. It will take a lot of your time. Focus on sales. And if you need some kind of, support, use these. And when you get, and I really, you will get there if you really, work hard, you will get there where you start looking at, broaden your horizons, broader than Sweden. You have the EU SME office that is free, and you have Enterprise Europe Network that is free. They also have this matchmaking between companies outside of Sweden and you guys, so you can take part of. These are things that you can use. They are free. They're paid by our government. Please use them. Another thing is just to give you the perspective here on the support that is out there. There are more than 60, science parks and incubators along, the whole Sweden. We have 13 innovation offices that also work with supporting entrepreneurs. Usually the innovation offices work specifically with the students and researchers at their university. But they are out there. If you're part of a university, you're a student somewhere, or you work at the university, these are offices that are there for you. And they're there for you to, support you in your journey in trying to create some kind of value outside of the academic world. This is just a map of all, a lot of the incubators, accelerators, and science parks that are out there, just to give you the picture of this is a support system that is here for you guys. It's here for you, and it's paid by our government. It's paid by our tax money. Know about these, use them. Private funding then, and this is very, very short, but Mikrofonden, I was actually got to know about it yesterday. And thank you, Ylva, for sharing more about this now. Of course, you have the angel investors, and here I would really recommend to look into Connect. They have both a program for accelerating, just the companies that just start off, but also the ones that are more scaling. But they also have a fantastic network of angels. So I actually recommended several startups to take part of the activities that they have. And you become some kind of a member. It just costs a couple of thousand crowns. And then, of course, you have the VCs. I'm not going to go into that. Karin can talk more about that. But VCs usually are in a later stage, I would say. And then the classic family, friends and fools that might give you some kind of funding because they believe in you. this is another thing that I strongly believe in. This is one of the reasons that we started Startup Sweden. It was that, you know, entrepreneurship is everywhere, but opportunity is not. So you need, for being able to sell, you need to get the right opportunities to do so. And there are support for this. You have Tech Arena, for example, in February, that really creates this. It's actually the only innovation ecosystem platform that Sweden has, where the whole innovation ecosystem comes together. And not just the investors, but also corporates and more mature SMEs that are interested in buying things. So this is good to have in mind. Also, yeah, they also have not just their events, but they have also their accelerator program, Time to Raise. And this is a European accelerator program focused on fundraising, focused on female founders. Know about this program. It has been a success. The success rate, it was the last time, I think it was 67% of the ones that are part of the program, they get funding. This is very, as you can see, the partners in this program are like, you get blown away, because it's, you know, everything from Sequoia Scout to Nordic Ninja, and also the public one, Industrifonden. International delegations. If you're interested in working internationally, Almi Invest arranges delegations, Business Sweden arranges, Tech Arena arranges, Vinnova arranges, Epicenter arranges, Teknikföretagen, Business Region Gothenburg, Region Skåne. They all arrange international delegations that are there for you guys, and usually they are there for free. They should be there for free. Some of them have no shame and take money for it. Most of them do not. Like Tech Arena had an investor matchmaking gathering at the Viva Tech in Paris. It was free for the companies, always free for the companies to participate. And also with the regions there, usually they get like discounts on tickets, or they have free tickets to join different events out there. So know about these things when you get to this point of looking outside of Sweden. Again, focus on sales. That's my take on it. I've been working with this for a long time. I've actually been quite successful in getting different kinds of public funding, but it has cost a lot. People have paid me a lot of money, a lot of hours just to write the applications, and then it's a gambling. But still, they are out there. You should know about them. I think the important thing here is like the support you can get in both nationally, but also if you want to go internationally. These platforms that creates that helps you get the opportunity, right? Okay, I think that was all. Whoa, I don't
This
know
was
if
great. No, I didn't want to interrupt you, Regina, because this was perfectly, because you also laid out different, how do you say, like sectors that are offering funding for this. So this gives a good, like, soft launch for the discussion, for the panel of discussion. And
Great.
thank you for that. And thank you, the three of you. So maybe we can now dive into the conversation, just so we can have like these thoughts around this concept of different finance opportunities that they are, and when is a good opportunity to apply for what, or to focus on what. So in the meantime, I would also like, I'm going to state the question for you three, but in the meantime, those that are joining us, please write on the chat in what stage you are at in your company. Is it that you are about to start it, you're already starting it, you are looking for traction? So just so we can have an understanding, so we can also mold the answers as well, and to know what to focus on in what topics. So the first question here, and feel free to, whoever wants to start first, is so now the three of you have this experience of what to focus on when you're looking for funding. You, Regina, you're highlighting like sales, and also on Karin, when you're saying focus on your team as well, and Ylva as well. Like, what is it that one can do? Perhaps you don't need to have a whole map for microfinancing, but very specific things within the company. So what are common misconceptions when one wants to, let's say, look for public funding or for private funding, or what are common misconceptions one might have, or like entrepreneurs might have?
Maybe I can
You
start.
want me to start, or Ylva, you start? We do it
Let's
in
go.
order.
Yes,
We'll
let's
copy
go
Ylva.
back. Let's start with Ylva, then you,
Yeah.
Karin, and then you, Regina.
So my experience is that, you know, for early stage entrepreneur startups, I would say it's difficult to know about the difference between different types of capital. Like really understanding what is the difference between, you know, applying for a grant or a loan or venture capital, because all of these things have different consequences for your company, and these different kinds of like financing institutions, they have different expectations on you. And I think it is a good idea to early on really try to dig into, you know, before applying, really like learning about this investor or this financing opportunity. What is it really about? What are they really looking for? Like, is this really aligned with your mission? Because there's this risk of mission drift also if you're desperate about you know, getting money and you find some business angel, but then you realize that, oh, actually I kind of sold my company now, and this person really wants this my company to do something completely different than what it was my dream, you know. So I think yeah, this is a very basic thing, because I think like for most people it's just, you know, money is money, and I need money to do what I want to do. But yeah, and as Regina was commenting also, that, you know, maybe you don't really want external money. Maybe it's just better for you to, you know, grow organically, step by step, you know, what we sometimes call bootstrapping. Like, instead of, I mean, maybe you don't need that big office. Maybe you can, you know, borrow a corner in some big company's office where you can sit and work to, you know, reduce your costs, and then you just start selling and earning your money, and then you have more power of the development of your own company. Or maybe you do need a big investment, and like, yeah, but to be aware of, you know, what is the difference between like, you know, a loan or getting, you know, selling equity in your company or something like this. So I think that's the first thing.
I can continue on that, because I mean, and Regina, you warned about the grants and the public money. I also want to warn a bit about the VC money, because I've seen a lot of startups that could have been super successful actually, you know, go down the drain because they got into the VC pressure, or I don't know what to call it, but you know, if you don't have, you know, a way of scaling or growing that sort of matches the VC way of the world, then you're going to get into a lot of trouble. Not only by, you know, being forced to do, you know, changing your company into something else, but the way you sort of can grow your company and the things you need to do. So I think, you know, a lot of companies have been pushed into something that doesn't work for their business model, so to speak. So we'll also watch out for VC money.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, and sorry, I feel like really, you know, that bad cop, you have the good cops and the bad cops, and now I feel really like the bad cop. But I think this is important information, and I'm just going to say it out very clear because it will save you time. And the thing is that the grants that are out there, specifically the public ones, that are based on a consumption of, this is what the companies need. So let's give one of our government agencies an assignment, and they create a call for proposal where companies can apply. These calls are, of course, presented as, you know, they are for the companies, but the whole agenda is to tick the box of a government assignment that you have, but also actually a lot of the people that sit there and evaluate these have never, ever had a company of their own. They are following instructions and requirements that are set beforehand, that they have set for, of course, and that is very important to have these criteria to know, okay, how do we evaluate the applications that come in? How do we do that in a democratic way? Yes. But usually it's way too little money. I mean, I know at Vinnova, the programs that we had that were focusing on startups, you know, over thousands of applications came in. And they had like 25 million in the call. It's not going to go to anything. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So the competition is super, super hard. And also the fact that these programs there is an agenda. And okay, say that you ignore what I'm saying right now, and you still want to look into these calls, do it. But just know, do that. And Ylva was starting to mentioning it before. You have to look into what is the strategy behind this call. Why are they having this call? And if Vinnova has a call, it's always because there is some kind of government assignment that they have received and they need to deliver on that one. So know about these things. And then just very basic. So an assumption, yes, is that companies think that, oh, this is fantastic. This is a call for me. And it is, but it isn't. I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying right now, and maybe I am a little bit crazy, but maybe I've been doing this for way too long, but it is the truth. So
it's good to hear
like
your
Ylva was
perspective,
saying,
because you
Sorry?
work on that. That is good to hear your perspective, because you work on that back end. So it's also as part of, like, when you say try to also know your investor, and in a way, like, the investors for the public funding is
exactly
those
that.
that are doing those check marks of whenever you're applying.
It's exactly the same thing. And then also just very basic, maybe you will get into that later, but just read the call and follow what it says in the call. I've been helping companies that have, like, they have written their own application, and I read the application. It's like, didn't they read the call text? Because you're in such a hurry, you think that I'm doing such a fantastic thing, and you probably are doing a fantastic thing, but there's a lot of other companies that also think that I'm doing this fantastic thing. And the one that's going to get the grant is the one that nails all the exact requirements, and also have, because Vinnova, whatever organization, needs to tick certain boxes towards the ministry. It's just it's basic. But you don't think about that because you're an entrepreneur, you're in your thing, you just want to, yeah, now I'm going to be quiet. I'll come back with other
So
things.
maybe I'll have a follow-up question for this, and then I'm going to go through everyone that has written a bit about their current situation with their company. So this follow-up question is about, so then how can someone know? How can an entrepreneur know what's the right path to take now in terms of, like, of their stage in their business? How can someone tell what funding path?
I mean, I think the state in the business is just one parameter. I think sort of what they're trying to build is maybe even a more important thing. So, if you want to go more of you can get VC money super early stage. You can get VC money without having anything in place, but then you have to have, the company you're gonna build have to be, a very VC friendly kind of company, easy to expand, global possibilities, all of this. So I think, it's not just what stage you're in, but it's also where you want to go, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I was a bit into that already, but I think it's important to find, like-minded partners, and maybe especially like-minded investors. So as you were saying, Regina, for example, if there's a public grant, so is the government really trying to do something that I'm trying to do now? Or is this bank trying to, does it seem to have like the same mission for the world as I do? So for example, when it comes to the social enterprises that I work with, often they went to one of the big business banks and they were denied, they were not even allowed to make an application, for example. And then they, go, oh, there's no point for me to try to get a loan. But then we introduce them to some of the cooperative ethical banks that we are partners with. And then all of a sudden, they find a bank officer that, understands their business model and like support what they are trying to do. So yeah, and also, of course, if you try to look for a business angel, it might be good to, find someone who maybe has already been in the same, kind of sector area thing that you're trying to do, that can contribute with, important knowledge about the market you're going into.
I think one of the most important thing you can get from your investors is network. So help you find future partners or future employees or, all of those things.
Yeah,
But
and that's also,
yeah. Sorry. No, Ylva, go ahead.
No, but I think also like once you find someone that is a bit similar and you reach out, maybe it's not the right person, but that person might know about, the right person because you're getting there to where you want to be.
And I would not, I would not get an investor to get the network. I would focus primarily from day one, strategically, who are my friends out there who, and there's also industry organizations that actually have some kinds of small grants like besöksnäring and stuff like that. I was reading in the chat here before, you can look into those things, but they're also like super connectors out there, and it's hard to know which ones they are until you meet them and you actually understand that they're connecting you like this because it just happens. I think, where do you hang out? Who should you book these meetings? And it's all about creating the platform to be able to sell. I mean, if you get investments and stuff like that, it doesn't matter if you don't sell, if you can prove that what you have is saleable, it's not gonna happen. Neither, I mean, someone might take a chance and then they're like totally crazy, but
they're not gonna come to you. You need to.
They're not gonna come. You need to go out there and network, and also find these, advisors or whatever that can support you with the network where you have to do the sales.
I think finding, a good partner can be more important than finding, someone who will give you financing, because, a good partner that already sits on your target audience or like the people you want to sell to and can give you access easily. If it's, another company or a community or something like that,
So it's the people that you're surrounded with and the context.
Yeah, but there's also research done on this. That the companies that are actually successful and grow and manage to stay alive are the ones that, when they started within a field where they had a network, they knew people. And if you do not have that and you still have an ambition to do something in another vertical, another sector, you need to find that person that has that network within that sector. It's just like quite basic, actually.
Yes.
It's I meet a lot of people that have fantastic ideas and they're like, they don't know anyone in that sector. And yes, I can help them, but it's, the end of the day, we all need to get paid, right?
Yes. I want to be mindful of our time, and I think this is going to be the like a good way to wrap up all these concepts and misconceptions, but also how to understand what could be the right path and do that critical thinking internally of where is it that you want to go with your company. I'm going to read through where our participants are at in their company, and I'll do a question for all of us. So Nina, she's live with her company and bootstrapping right now. But to grow, it might need some time and some help, mentor-wise and money-wise. Kong is, I'm about to start my company on Swedish sustainable tourism, facing international customers. Team is ready. And now we are doing preparations such as working on production and doing research about sales. I have a business idea, Sugania, but it is still in the idea phase. There is some financial knowledge that I prefer to dig deeper to have more confidence in the following steps. I would like to pull it back of the intention of the webinar. We are supporting young women entrepreneurs. And what the three of you, Karin, Ylva, and Regina, highlighted was this still very gender gap issue in Swedish funding and worldwide funding in general for women entrepreneurs, but particularly in Sweden, that it's it's one of the more progressive places in the world, and then there's still this issue for funding for women, and then young women that want to start their business, or perhaps don't know the network, this kind of knowledge. So to a question, the three of you, that's if you would cater it to our participants now, where would they start? Like what would be some of these recommendations of if early stage startups, like what to focus on in this process, and particularly for young women, these walls that we might not see, or these misconceptions, these biases as well, what do we prioritize in this process if we want to build our network, build our business, focus on our product sales? How do we navigate this?
I mean, I think I would probably, focus on finding good partners, or good people, companies, organizations, etc., to collaborate with, that are already sort of sitting on your target customers. What could that be? That could be, it could be a gym. It could be, it depends totally on what you're sort of want to sell, of course. But yeah, finding those partners, and try to find good ways of collaborating that might, that works for you.
So since I'm mainly in the lending and banking part of financing, if you go to that kind of actor, your budget and financial plan is the main documents that they're going to look at, and also a bit of the track record of the team, etc., the previous experiences and so on. So it's quite important to focus on that. But I think don't if you get a no, don't feel too depressed, don't give up. I would really advise you to go to these free advisors that are around, who can help you. They can look at your plans, they can look at your business plan, they can give you advice about how to improve it, how to find other lenders or investors that might be better for you. So don't be afraid to reach out to a lot of different actors. So that's my advice.
I would say the number one thing you need to do is just map the ecosystem that you're in. Map who are the actors out there who are successful, who has not been successful. Just map who they are and find a mentor and advisor within that field. That would be my number one, even before even thinking about funding and stuff like that. But it's not impossible. It's all out there. The information is out there. Reach out to someone that you believe can be your mentor advisor within that sector. But first map the sector, so think strategically here. It's a strategy. Like, I do not do anything without a strategy, so just do that first, the mapping, and then trying to find a mentor advisor within that field. Then we can talk about the next step. And if you are in a specific field, I mean, Nina here, you didn't share what sector or what you are in. Otherwise, when I saw, I don't know if it was Congo or Michaela or
sustainable tourism.
Names pop up in my head that, okay, this is a person that I could be relevant. So I'm part of the Wing agency, so we are a group of super connectors in Sweden. Yes. So there are do that. Map your ecosystem, trying to find an advisor or a mentor within that field. That would be my number one. Then I have like 10 other steps, but we're not even going to go into that now, because this is good enough for now.
Yes, but thank you. I mean, when it comes to, I think if I'm trying to like to sum up a lot on the topic of financing with early stage startups is just how you're saying like, okay, strategically know who you need to reach out to so you are efficient also with your time and your resources, because early stage you don't have that much budget, if none, or so is both
But
the
also,
who you're
sorry,
reaching.
can I add
Yes.
here? Just to add to the, when you map your ecosystem, also map the ones that fund specifically within your area, your sector. So there's sustainable tourism. I know that there have been calls out there, and I had once upon a time contact with the besöksnäringens blehe blehe. They had some kind of funding. It wasn't relevant for me or anyone I knew at that time, but this is, you know, I can hear someone here should know about that. So map your the whole ecosystem within your sector. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm going to be quiet now.
No, but thank you. Thank you so much, Regina. Maybe we can just this last one, and then so we can wrap up because Nina asked that sometimes she finds it hard to find a mentor. So do you have any advice there, all of you? If you...
I think LinkedIn is a really good platform, you know, where you can search for people and companies. And it happens to me quite often that people add me on LinkedIn and they, you know, first we start chatting a bit and then they want to have a meeting, and then I can, you know, give them advice about who to contact, etc. So at least that's my experience, that's a good platform for, you know, finding mentors and you know, getting to know people in your sector that you wouldn't meet otherwise.
Yeah, target people that are really in the same sector, that are sort of, that will be excited also from their own sort of for themselves, because you are already in the space where that they are really interested in.
Yeah, I would say that yes, you can find them on LinkedIn if there are profiles within your sectors that are a little bit, you know, but some of them might be hard to reach. They might not have that much time. But if you go to events also within the sector you're in, there you will meet a lot of people. And also you can get, like, just by networking, you get a feeling, is this a person I want to meet once a month, or is it just some, I don't know. So you also get that. It's kind of you doing your own recruitment on site, selecting on who would you like to meet a couple of times a year to get guidance. So there are a lot of events out there. It's like almost ridiculous how many.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you all for this insightful and very practical and straight on both advice, but like sharing your knowledge on the field. And I assume, like, for your experience, this has been from seeing so many different kinds of cases and you also experiencing it as well on the ground. So thank you for this and for sharing your knowledge and your time with us. This is going to be, it's recorded and we're going to upload it on the YouTube channel of the project, actually. So I'll share the link and send a follow-up email and information. And if it's okay with you, Regina, Karin, and Ylva, if we share your, yes, like on the email, so they can connect with you, those that sign up for the webinar.
I'm also interested in Regina's slides there. They were really good.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you.
No, you have to pay for them. You have to pay for
And
them.
those
I
ones.
see, yeah.
No,
Is it
no,
okay
no,
with the
I know.
micropayment?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Now you're making. No, but the thing is that I think, Gabriela, you have the PDF, right? You just share it with the whole
Yes.
group. And with me, connect with me on LinkedIn is the only social media I use, but I'm very active there. So you send me something within 24 hours, you will get some kind of response. Okay? And good luck, Nina, Michaela, Suganya, and Kong. Amazing. You're here, you know, you're trying it
Yeah.
out. It's fantastic. So really, really, really cheering for you guys.
Yes.
And
yes.
thanks, Gabriela and Impact Hub for
Thank you so
organizing.
much.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Thank you
was
so
good too.
much. Until next time.